Welcome back. In our previous episode, we explored RVSM, transition altitudes, barometric errors, and how GPS complements traditional altimetry. Today, in the final part of our altimetry series, we'll go deeper into altitude busts, temperature deviations, and how ATC ensures vertical separation in different airspace classes. Let's start with an important concept, the altitude bust. This happens when an aircraft deviates from its assigned altitude by more than the allowed tolerance, often 300 feet or more. These incidents are serious and can lead to loss of separation or mid-air conflicts. Altitude busts are often caused by pilot error, misreading of settings, autopilot malfunctions, or improper transition level handling. Sometimes it's as simple as a missed QNH update or selecting the wrong mode on the flight director. Small mistakes, big consequences. ATC relies on pilots to maintain accurate altitude. Transponders transmit altitude data based on pressure. If your altimeter is misset or out of tolerance, it may appear correct in the cockpit but incorrect on ATC's radar display, leading to misunderstandings. That's why continuous altitude monitoring is essential. During climb, cruise, and descent, always cross-check both altimeters, verify autopilot performance, and confirm level off. If there's any doubt, ask ATC for your reported altitude and compare with your instruments. Let's talk about temperature deviations. As we saw earlier, cold air compresses pressure levels, making your true altitude lower than indicated. In mountainous regions or cold climates, this creates a serious risk for terrain clearance. ICAO and many national authorities have cold temperature procedures. They specify airports and temperatures where mandatory corrections apply. On approach, pilots must adjust altitudes above certain waypoints or minima to stay safely above terrain. Charts may include snowflake symbols or cold temp tables. For example, if the airport is minus 20 degrees Celsius below standard, you might need to add 100 to 200 feet to your approach segments. Always review NOTAMs and AIP supplements for cold weather ops. Now let's go into airspace classifications. In controlled airspace, classes A to E ATC is responsible for maintaining vertical separation. They rely on standardized flight levels, transition altitudes, and your transponder data to keep aircraft apart. In Class A, which begins at FL 195 in many countries, only IFR flights are allowed, and standard pressure is always used. Vertical separation is strictly maintained using flight levels. You can't fly VFR here even if the sky is perfectly clear. Class C and D allow both IFR and VFR, but ATC provides separation between IFR and advisory for VFR. Altimeter settings must be constantly adjusted to QNH for terrain clearance. Below transition level, true altitude matters most. In uncontrolled airspace, Class G, there's no ATC separation. Pilots are responsible for see and avoid and terrain clearance. Correct altimetry is even more important here, especially at night or in IMC, when visual separation isn't possible. Many countries require pilots to follow quadrantal rules or semicircular rules when flying VFR. These assign cruising altitudes based on track direction to reduce collision risk. For example, eastbound flights might cruise at odd thousands plus 500 feet. In mountainous airspace, additional altitude buffers may be required. For example, a minimum of 2,000 feet above terrain rather than 1,000. Altimeter accuracy and proper QNH setting is critical, especially when GPS signal is degraded or unavailable. Let's not forget altitude blocks used in holding patterns and step descents. ATC may assign a block from FL 240 to FL 260. Pilots must ensure they don't drift out of the block, especially during turbulence or strong vertical drafts. Another potential issue, altimeter lag. In rapidly changing vertical flight, like during an emergency descent or strong thermal activity, the altimeter might temporarily misrepresent your true altitude. Trust your vertical speed indicator and trends. Now, about barometric pressure updates. In long flights, pressure may change significantly between origin and destination. Always get the destination QNH from ATIS, Meta, or controller updates well before descent. Don't wait until you're on final. Let's talk ATC handoffs. When changing frequency or control zone, confirm the current QNH with the new controller. If not provided, ask for it. This prevents discrepancies during descent and ensures alignment with other aircraft in the area. Some modern systems include Mode S enhanced surveillance, which gives ATC more detailed data like selected altitude and GPS track. If what you've selected doesn't match what ATC expects, they can spot the discrepancy and ask for confirmation. Also, Mode C verification procedures are important. When first contacting a controller, you may be asked to confirm altitude passing. This cross-checks your reported Mode C altitude with your voice report. Always report the altitude on your altimeter, not flight level, unless above transition. Now a quick note on transition levels. They may vary day to day, depending on QNH. A low-pressure day might push the transition level higher. Always check ATIS or ask ATC. Don't assume it's the same as the published transition altitude. In low-pressure systems, you might be cruising at FL 090 but your true altitude is closer to 8,000 feet. If you're near terrain, this could be dangerous. Always verify terrain clearance using true altitude references and corrections. Let's cover high-altitude altimetry. Above FL 400, altimeter errors can increase due to thinner air and reduced pressure gradient. That's why RVSM monitoring continues, and ATC spacing may be increased beyond FL 410 in some regions. In the future, more aircraft may use ADS-B and GNSS for altitude data, but until then, pressure-based altimetry remains the global standard. Even with all the tech, it comes down to one thing: setting the right pressure and cross-checking your instruments. Let's do a real-world scenario. You're flying into a mountain airport with QNH dropping quickly. If you forget to update your altimeter, you'll think you're higher than you really are and risk descending into terrain. Always brief the approach and verify settings early. Another case, you're in controlled airspace, descending to 5,000 feet. ATC gives QNH 1002, but your altimeter is still on 1013. You'll be lower than indicated, possibly infringing on separation. These details can make or break flight safety. Let's recap what we've covered in all 3 altimetry episodes. How altimeters work and why pressure settings matter. The roles of QNH, QFE, and standard pressure. RVSM rules and equipment requirements. How temperature and pressure affect true altitude. The importance of accurate altimetry for terrain and traffic separation. Understanding altimetry isn't just theory, it's life-saving knowledge. It impacts every phase of flight, from takeoff roll to final approach. Master it, and you'll avoid dangerous errors, improve situational awareness, and fly like a pro. In our next episode, we'll begin a new topic: temperature. We'll explore how heat and cold influence air density, engine performance, and even flight planning. Temperature isn't just a number, it's a force that shapes your entire flight. See you in Meteorology number 12, Temperature, Part 1.